Hello and welcome. My name is Russ Morrow, and it's my pleasure to act as host for this week's virtual summit brought to you by NAPW. I'd like to extend a special welcome to the many NAPW members joining us today. For those of you who may not be familiar, NAPW is an online and face-to-face community made up of over 850,000 professional women who join together to cultivate valuable business connections, develop professionally, and promote themselves and their businesses. To learn more about NAPW and the many benefits of membership, please make sure to visit our website at napw.com. This webinar, How to Become Your Own Boss, kicks off our 3-day virtual summit for entrepreneurs, where over the course of 12 interactive sessions, we will offer some amazing information and guidance from experts who will provide insights on how to plan, how to launch, how to run, and how to expand your own business. Topics covered will include how to get started, how to market your business, how to negotiate, how to manage your finances and taxes, and how to build your brand. Before I introduce today's guest speaker, a few housekeeping points. Everybody is on mute, so please don't worry about being overheard if you accidentally sneeze or cough. Questions, and we know that there will be many. Throughout today's session, you'll be able to submit written questions, and there will be some time to answer these at the end of the presentation. Depending on the volume, we may not get to all of your questions, but if that happens, we'll do our best to answer them via blog post and email, and we will find a way to communicate answers to you. And the million-dollar question, will you be able to see the presentation again if you miss something? Yes. Recordings of today's webinar and all others over the course of the virtual summit this week will be emailed and will be available to view again here on the Bright Talk platform. Okay, so it's my absolute honor to introduce our guest speaker for this opening session of the virtual summit. I can promise you that we're all in for a real treat. Melinda Emerson is America's #1 small business expert. She's an internationally renowned speaker on small business startup, business development, and social media marketing. Indeed, Forbes magazine has named her the #1 woman for entrepreneurs to follow on Twitter. Melinda's small business advice is widely read, reaching more than 3 million entrepreneurs each week online. Melinda publishes a resource blog, succeedasyourownboss.com, which is syndicated by the Huffington Post. And she's also the best-selling author of Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months and the ebook How to Become a Social Media Ninja. Over the course of this session, Melinda is going to teach you her proven step-by-step method to transition from employee to entrepreneur. Melinda, thank you for joining us today, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Russ. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. You know, my favorite thing is to help folks get free from a job and become their own boss. So I'm really excited to talk to you all today. A lot of the information that I'm going to be sharing with you is information that is in my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, which is in its 2nd edition. And I'm going to give you guys a special way to get a discounted version of that book later on in this presentation. Now what I'd like to do is just jump right in and really give you guys the nitty-gritty on what it is to start a successful small business. So what I'm going to talk about in our presentation today really is what is involved in starting your own business. We're going to talk about life planning, developing a financial plan. We're going to talk about the reasons why small businesses fail, and I'm going to leave you today with an action plan to move forward if you are ready to become your own boss. Now let's dive right into it. The first thing I want you all to do with me is to read this slide out loud. When you are an entrepreneur, you kill for your dinner every day. Now I know you guys are looking at your computer like, oh, you know, and you really didn't do it. So I really need you to do it for me this time, for real. Okay, let's try it one more time. When you are an entrepreneur, you kill for your dinner every day. Now, the reason why I'm starting this presentation with that is because I want you guys to know that when you put your shingle out and you say you're open for business, that is really serious business, because if you don't work, you do not eat. And you have to have systems in place so that your business doesn't become how you feel about your job right now. So we're going to talk about some of the things you have to have in place in order to really start a business what I call the right way. So and this is all based on the Emerson planning system, which I created to really help people. I created to really help people. I see people saying that they cannot see the slides. Can you guys see the slides now? I'm hoping that you guys can see the slides.
Yeah, don't worry about those, Linda. We'll make sure that everybody can see those.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to move on. So what I'm going to share with you all today is based on my system called the Emerson Planning System to transition from having a job to starting a business. It starts with developing a life plan, really figuring out where you're going to get the money to start your business, really how you're going to validate your business concept. We're going to walk you through the steps that you have to think about as you're developing your marketing plan. Yes, we are going to talk about business plans, and I'm going to tell you how to launch your business and when it makes sense to do so. So now, the next thing you have to really think about if you are ready to start a business is 3 questions you really need to ask yourself. Number 1, do you really have a solid business idea? And that is, do people beyond your mom and your close friends think it's a good idea? Like, is somebody really going to pay you money for your product or service? Can you afford to become an entrepreneur? And we're going to talk in depth about this. And the reason why this is important is because some of you guys have fabulous houses and brand new cars in the driveway and entirely too much debt. And if that's the case, you probably really can't afford to become an entrepreneur. And then you have to look at where you are in your life. Do you have the energy and the discipline to start a business? Do you have little kids? Do you have an elderly parent that you're spending a lot of time helping them get organized and take care of them? Do you have a spouse that travels a lot? You really got to look at what's going on in your life right now to figure out whether or not you can carve out this time to launch your business. Now, what do you think you need to start a business? What do you really think you need to start a business? I'm going to tell you, it is a 12-month plan. You really do need to start planning your business 12 months before you actually launch your business. So what I'm really excited about is that this is November. So this is a great time for you to be getting together your 2018 plan. So this is perfect timing for you to be sitting through this webinar. So a lot of people, probably one of the most common questions that I get asked is, why does it take 12 months, small biz lady, to start a business? Well, let me break that down for you. Number 1, if you are starting a business that you don't have any industry experience in, you may need to go get some. You may need to go work for a restaurant like the one you want to start, right? The other thing you've got to do is, depending on if you have an internally facing job or an externally facing job, you might need to spend some time rebuilding your network. The last thing you want to do is call somebody right when you need them to buy something from you. You want to warm your network back up or start forcing yourself to go to networking events so you can build a network. You also want to make sure that your credit is tight. You have got to have exceptional credit when you start out in business because you are your business's credit. And we're going to get into what that looks like a little later in this presentation. And if you don't have exceptional credit or if you sit in with a bunch of credit card debt and stuff like that, you might need a year to financially get all that stuff together so that you can reposition yourself. And then you've got to validate the market, and that simply means you got to make sure there's a paying customer out here for you. Now, when you think about these things I just talked about, you really do need to make sure that you spend the time nurturing your network, because when you first start out in business, your network is your net worth. Probably 90% of all small businesses get business from referrals. So your first business is going to come from somebody that knows you. Matter of fact, it might come from the person sitting in the cubicle next to you. So it's really important that you spend this time, building your network. It's key. The other thing you want to think about before you start is, as I already talked about, is, do you have a really solid business idea? Do you have a business idea that other people are already doing? Even if you are inventing something, once you bring it on the market, you've got 18 months before somebody else comes out with a bigger, better one. So you really need to make sure that there is some actual unique value proposition to what you're doing. You know, does the world need another graphic design firm? No, the world does not. Does the world need a graphic design firm that specializes in developing educational materials? Yes, it does. That company can get work all day, every day. So you really have to think about what is going to be your unique sauce or you know, your moonwalk in terms of what you're doing. And I cannot stress this enough. Please do not start a business that you don't know anything about. You know, do not open a hair salon if you don't do hair, right? You know, and I know this sounds really simple, but I have seen it so many times. People start a restaurant because they like to eat, you know, and they don't know how to cook or hire wait staff. So make sure that you spend some time really getting clear. And then when I said exceptional credit, let me tell you what that means. That's 750 or higher. You want to have pristine credit because you're going to need your credit capacity as you launch your business, and zero debt. Now, do I mean you have to have your house paid off? No. But do I mean that no credit card debt? Yeah. Do I mean your car paid off? Yeah. Do I mean, you know, no frivolous debt? Because you're going to need those credit cards in a lot of ways to launch your business, because guess what? Banks do not loan money to start up businesses. Unless you're buying a franchise and there's a specific, you know, funding opportunity with that franchise model, that might be the only way you could get business as a startup, money as a startup. Most of the time, your money's going to come from you. And when I say you, I mean your right or your left pocket, you know, your savings, your 401k, this kind of stuff. That's where this money's going to come from, which is why it's so important to protect your personal finances prior to doing this. Now, in addition to having your financial house in order and building your network, there's some other stuff you're going to need. And number one, you need a supportive spouse or partner. And let me tell you why. Because an unsupportive spouse can kill a business faster than a bad marketing plan. It is very, very hard to start a business from scratch. And if you're coming home to a lot of drama and stress, or, you know, some negative Debbie Downer person that you live with, you won't survive. It's just too hard, because you're going to hear no way more than you're going to hear yes, especially in the early days. So you need to make sure that your family's on board. And you need to have a meeting with everybody, the kids, everybody. Pull everybody around the table and say, look, this is what mommy is working on. And this is how it's going to help us in the future. But everybody's going to have to sacrifice in order for this business to grow, and this business to thrive, and this business to one day financially take care of us. And particularly, you know, if you've got kids and all they do is look at you like you're their personal ATM machine, you really need to have an eyeball-to-eyeball conversation about this and what it means. And then you need to give your spouse a realistic timeline for how long you're going to chase this business. Now, listen, do yourself a favor and pad whatever timeline you think by 6 months, because your sweetie is really going to hold you to this timeline. And you guys, it takes 12 to 24 months for a small business to break even. And that doesn't mean it's covering your corporate salary. I mean, it's the business is finally taking care of itself in year 2. Most people can't take a consistent salary until like year 3, sometimes year 4. So you want to make sure that you tell your spouse, you know, you got to give me 36 months, you know. But it is, particularly if you are married to someone or dating someone or living with someone who is a highly risk-averse person, listen, I would approach them like they are the bank, you know, with facts and figures and opportunity and the timeline needed. The other thing you need, too, outside of that, is what I call a kitchen cabinet of advisors. And this is 4 to 5 people that are already invested in your success. Someone who is already an entrepreneur should be in your kitchen cabinet. Somebody who is a customer or a potential customer should be in there, too. And all of us have somebody in our life that we call whenever we get our butts in a sling and we need some advice. So I would add that person to your group. And then your 4th and 5th person should be an accountant and an attorney. And for those of you that have the opportunity to go to college, you may know somebody who's an attorney and somebody who is an accountant. And the reason why I call this group of people a kitchen cabinet of advisors is because these people will work for food. You know, they're not going to send you a bill every time you call them and ask them a question. But you do need to be careful, because you do want to make sure that if you ask them for their advice and you don't take it, that you've got a really, really good reason, because otherwise you could damage a really important relationship. And the most valuable thing anyone can give you is their time. So you want to make sure that, you know, you utilize these people the right way. The other thing you want to make sure is that you are I like to get this group of people together, because sometimes the other people that are advising you like to meet the other people advising you, you know. So I would say maybe 3 or 4 times a year, you know, pull them together like an informal advisory board, you know, give them copies of your financial statements, you know, have like a real business meeting and allow them to, you know, give you advice in the company of each other. And that is something that might really go well for you. And what I like is that these people are a confidential sounding board. You know, they're going to tell you the truth, but they already really like you, and they're going to be supportive, and it's going to be a safe space for you to admit things that you don't understand. Because sometimes when you're just starting out in business, you know, your spouse or your best friends might not be the right people to talk to about your business dreams and goals or struggles you're having. So you want to make sure that you have some people around you that are going to give you honest feedback. Now, let's talk about the actual elements of a small business. So you have your sort of legal entity, you have your accounting, you have the things that you manage in a business. What do you manage? You manage people, you manage money, and you manage your brand. And then you have what we call your business practice. And that is sort of like where the intellectual capital in your business lives. So how your business operates, your banking relationship, and then your signature processes and systems. That is your business practice. And it's really important as early on as possible in your business that you start documenting operations and processes, because that is how you're going to empower yourself to one day bring in employees. If you're walking around with everything about your business in your head, you're going to have a problem if you get hit by a bus, right? So you want to make sure that you write down things and write down your signature way to do things, even if it's how do we put your product in the box and ship it. You want to make sure that it's known and that it's written down. Now, let's talk about the type of skills you have to be an entrepreneur, because I think this is really important, because a lot of people come and ask me, can you learn to be an entrepreneur? You can, but there are some specific traits that most successful entrepreneurs have. And so I want to share those with you now. Number one, you have to be a visionary, and you have to be able to craft a vision, but then you've got to be able to communicate your vision. You've got to be a leader. You know, being a CEO means you're going to have to make hard decisions, hiring people, firing people, you know, cutting back when cash flow is tight, understanding that cash flow is tight. You know, these are all leadership decisions. So if you're not willing to make the hard decisions, then you might not be ready. You've got to have business experience. I cannot emphasize that enough. You also have to have a sacrificial attitude. So what do I mean by that? Well, listen, there's going to be days where you got to hand out paychecks and you don't get to take one home. And you can't be throwing paychecks at people and being nasty. You have to still understand the greater good. You got to protect your people, because your people are your front line. Your people are who is most exposed to your customers. So if you have the ability to take on employees, you have to realize that you have to protect them. You have to dive in the bus in front of them, and sometimes most of the time, that's financially. You also have to be high energy. You know, your business is going to run on your own personal optimism. So if you don't believe it, no one else will. So you've got to be pumped up about your products and services that you're out here selling. You also have to have a competitive attitude. And often when I'm talking to female audiences, I really have to emphasize this, because sometimes, you know, doubt kills more businesses than anything else. And you really do want to make sure that when you state your price, that's your price. So somebody says, you know, how much is your, you know, perfume? And you say $65, then you have to wait for an answer. You don't want to say $65, but I'll work something out with you, because you're already telling people you don't think it's worth $65. And sometimes we have to have a conversation with ourselves about this before we go into a pitch meeting, or we go out to a trade show, or before we set up our wares at an event. You have to make sure that you're willing to stand by your price and that you're willing to give it without blinking an eye. You know, the first person to speak after a price is spoken loses. So you want to make sure that you're willing to stand behind your price and that you know that you're worth it, that you're giving more than what that price is. And that rolls right into our next one. You know, you have to be self-confident. You know, there are people who are introverts who are very successful in business, but introverts have to force themselves to be extroverts sometimes in order for it to work. And being quiet sometimes comes off as not having self-confidence. So you want to make sure that you do enough talking and listening in any situation. You have to be strategic and focused as a business owner. And the reason why I say that is because there's tons of stuff out here to distract you. Tons of emails about buying this latest gizmo thing or coming to this conference for women. Listen, you don't go to any conference that's not in your budget. And you don't go to any trade show where 90% of the audience is not your target customer, period. You want to make sure that you use financial information to make business decisions so that you do not get distracted, because usually entrepreneurs are really good at seeing other opportunities elsewhere. So you want to make sure that you are focused at all times on what your core business is and who your niche target customer is. And you've got to love people. You've got to have strong interpersonal skills. If you don't, it's going to be really important that you have a business partner who does. Very, very key. Now, let's talk about the different jobs you're going to have. Well, number one, you should be your business's number one salesperson. And guess what? You're going to get to type up the letters, put them in the envelope, and take them to the post office, too. You are the secretary. You also are the business planner. You know, I don't believe in hiring consultants to write your business plan. You need to write it because you actually need to use the business plan to run your business. You are the, R&D market research department. You know, you also end up being your own technology expert too, unless of course you're really nice to the guy in IT once you leave your business and see if he'll still help you with your computers after you leave. You also are going to be your own bookkeeper. You know, you're going to sign the checks on the front and the back. Even if you have a payroll company, you got to call in the payroll. You got to keep up with the hours. You know, the payroll is very involved and complicated. And please do not ever do your own payroll unless you are an accounting firm, because you can go to jail faster for not paying payroll taxes and not paying income taxes. So you want to make sure you're not messing around with people's payroll. Any of you that have the opportunity to have employees already, you definitely know what it is to be an HR manager, / therapist. And I have to be honest with you, this is the thing I hate the most about my business. I wish people just came to work and did their job. I really don't want to hear about their problems, but you have to. You have to show you care so that they can act like they care about your customers. And if you don't have this skill, you got to work on this one. This is the one I have had to work on in my 18 years of being in business. Managing people is my greatest opportunity to grow. I'll just leave it there. And social media is not an option anymore. You really do have to do it. If you don't like it, I don't care. You really do still have to do it because your competition is global. So you need to make sure that you are out here everywhere your customers are. And bill collector might be the most important job you have. Everyone thinks they can pay a small business late or last, so it is really important that you are really clear about your collections terms and that either you or someone else in your company on day 31 and you're waiting for a check, somebody picks up the phone. It's not time to send an email. You want to make sure you know where the money trail is and when you are going to get paid. Now, true or false, most business owners don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. This is true, true, true. You have to plan for success. It's not going to just happen to you. So it's very, very important that you think through your plan as you start your business. Now, let's talk a little bit about why small businesses fail, because I think that if you know this going in as you start a business, I think it is really, really important because you won't prayerfully make these mistakes. Now, the number one reason why small businesses fail is because people really don't think about what their life is going to be like as an entrepreneur. For some people, some reason, people think they're going to have more time or they're going to be able to beat the school bus with the kids. No, you are about to start working like a maniac, and if you're still working a full-time job, you're going to work all day and then you're going to work all evening and some of your weekends for this business. And you have to be prepared and willing to do that. But you've got to really get clear about what you want and why you want it. And that's why I talk a lot about developing a life plan, because it's very important for you to get clear about that. The second reason why small businesses fail is because people have no network to sell to. It's astonishing to me how often I see people with no friends, people that are bad at keeping in touch with people, and then will, turn around and start a business. And it's like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? If you want friends, you must be friendly, and you got to work your network before you need your network. So you've got to work on that. The third reason why small businesses fail is because people spend so much time chasing new business as opposed to nurturing existing customers. And it's crazy. The first sale you make to someone is the most expensive sale you'll ever make. So it's very, very important that you nurture people who've already said they love you. They've already plunked down money with you, which means they're far more likely to do it again. So do not neglect your existing customers. They are so important to the long-term sustainability of your business. And then the fourth reason why I think small businesses fail is because people try to sell to everybody. Oh, everybody can use this product or service. Listen, if everybody can use it, nobody will. You really need to figure out how you can focus on a niche target customer. And my best example for this is, who do you think makes more money, your primary care physician or your cardiologist? Now, I'm hoping all of you said cardiologists, because the cardiologists I know drive Lamborghinis, right? So why do cardiologists make more money? Because they are specialists, right? So you want to figure out how to become the specialist for what you do. Because like I said earlier, nobody's looking for a graphic design firm, but people are looking for graphic design firms that understand the educational materials. So again, it's really about thinking through who can you serve the best at the highest margin and price point for you to make money. That is really the name of the game. And then the fifth reason, and this is the deadliest reason, if you do not manage your household with a budget, you are not going to manage your business with one. And successful businesses are run based on up-to-date financial information. So what does that mean practically? Well, by the 15th of the month, you should have some financial statements in front of you that tell you how well you did last month, so that you can know where you are, so you can adjust, so that you can use a budget to run your business. Do not be one of these people out here that, you have a fear of math, so that's why you don't know what's going on in your business, or you don't understand how much profit is in every sale. You don't be one of these people who only talks to an accountant at tax time. It's too late then. You really want to leverage your accountant as a business advisor, and that's going to be extremely important. And this time of year, you want to be sitting down with your accountant, planning out any tax strategies, looking at your budget for next year. All of these things are the things that you want to be doing so that you can put yourself in the best position going into the following year. So now let's talk about life planning, because I really think that this is the first thing you need to do. A lot of times people want to talk to me about business plan. I'm like, no. You need a life plan, because you need to clarify your goals and dreams. You need to figure out what kind of lifestyle you want. Do you want to be able to pay all your bills, send the kids to private school, and go on a few nice vacations a year? Or do you need to throw off enough money to buy your own island? This is going to determine what kind of business you're actually going to start. And then you need to have a real honest conversation with yourself about what you will and won't do. If you've been out here working in corporate America 20, 25 years, you've become accustomed to, a certain lifestyle or not doing as much work as you used to. And you're going to have to revert all the way back to that, all the way back to, your junior woodchuck days when you first got started. And you've got to really think through whether or not you're really willing to do that. And I really believe that your business has to fit your personal goals and ambitions. Otherwise, you may start a business that might not be a good business for you. And I've seen that happen as well. So some of the key decisions that you need to think about is, how much do you plan to work? Is day-to-day variety important to you? How much money do you need to make to be happy? And do you need to update any of your skills, particularly your technology skills, before you leave your job to start this business? Because once you cut your paycheck off and walk out the door, that's it. So you want to make sure that you take a skills assessment of yourself to find out if there's a new certification or PMP or, social media certification, something you can do while you're still at the job before you leave, so that you leave armed with what you need to launch your business. Now, one of the things that I want to share with you all is, once you develop your life plan, I'm a big believer in vision boards. And I'm sharing this vision board with you that was mine. And it was my vision board way back in 2007, when I first decided that I wanted to give away small business advice, that I wanted to become a national small business expert. And long before it was true, I called myself America's #1 small business expert. And I'm very proud to say, because I put that vision out into the atmosphere, by 2010, when my first book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 months, first came out, I was already regarded as that even before my book came out. And so I think it's really important to create a vision board for what you want for yourself, what kind of house it is, what kind of car it is, how much you want to get paid. One of the things that was very important to me was, getting paid a certain amount per keynote speech and stuff like that. Whatever your milestone is for you, you want to put together a vision board of it, so that you can put it somewhere in your office. Because on those days that are really hard, when you don't feel like running your business anymore, or when, you just had a customer call you and scream at you for something dumb, you need to remind yourself why you're working so hard. You need to have a physical reminder of what it is you're trying to accomplish. And that is why vision boards are really important. And I hope you guys know how old this is, because you see this picture of me in this slide, or one of my first logos, Building Your Business with Melinda Emerson. That's how long ago this is, that those were the original branding elements that I had for my business. Now, one of the things I also want to talk to you all about is like how to develop a financial plan. One of the things you want to do is calculate your net worth. And you need to figure out, if you don't already have one, your household budget, because you need to figure out how much money you need to have in place to run your household should you leave your job, particularly if you are your sole breadwinner in your household. You got to get the zero debt. We already talked about what that looks like. And then you've got to look at how much capital you have access to. Do you have any savings? Do you have a home equity? Do you got a 401k or IRA? And depending on how old you are, you really should talk to your financial planner as to whether or not, if you're over 50, whether or not you should be messing around with your 401k. Maybe you just need to look at, savings and home equity and leave your retirement savings alone. But you need to talk to a professional about it before you just go liquidating everything. And then you've got to figure out how you'll cover health and disability insurance. This is incredibly important, especially if you are the sole breadwinner in your home. And let me just tell you a quick story about this. When I was in my early 30s, when I became pregnant with my son, I ended up with a high-risk pregnancy, put on bed rest for 6 months. At that time, my husband had quit his job full-time and was in our business full-time. So our entire livelihood was coming out of the business, and I was our business's #1 rainmaker. And if I hadn't had disability insurance when all of that stuff happened, we might have been taken down entirely financially as a family. So you never think that, in your early 30s you get pregnant and it would become a complete financial crisis, but it actually did for me when I was pretty young. So Don't always think about disability as, car accident, breaking your leg, getting, cancer. No, it could be something way more benign than that causes you to need disability insurance. So just think through some of those things as you're transitioning, or you're thinking about how to transition out of your full-time position. Now, one of the things that I want you all to think about as you are trying to figure out where you're going to get the resources to start this business is really the 3 pools of money you need to have. We all know you need to have 6 to 12 months set aside for an emergency in your life or in your home. You need to have at least a year or two's worth of salary to live off of. And then the initial money to start your business, the working capital, is going to come from you as well. That's a lot of money. So you've got to be really, really, really disciplined. And so what I would say is that if you are married, start figuring out how to live off of one salary. If you are a single salary household, start saving 20 to 40% of every paycheck. I mean, really, you got to cure your addiction to your paycheck, because you really have to tighten your belt and maybe go on one less vacation this year, bank your bonus if you get one. These are all the kinds of things you can do to start piling money so that you can move forward with your business. And then let's say your money isn't as tight as you need it, then here's some of the things you need to think about to reposition yourself. First of all, get a credit report. Look at all 3 credit scores and find out where you are. And then if you're not currently using a budget, I would say collect every receipt in your household for a month and look at the ways that you guys are spending money. You got a latte a day habit, you got a shoe problem like I do, whatever it is that you're blowing money needlessly on, you got to stop if you're really going to be serious about doing this. You also want to consider if you have a significant debt problem or if you have a significant credit challenge, you may want to consider hiring a debt or credit repair consultant to assist you. But what I would caution with that is make sure you go online and check if there's any lawsuits against this company, if there's been any bad ratings against the company. If they, I like to do a Google search of the name of the company and scam and see what comes up. And start using a budget. Stop spending money you don't need to spend. Dunkin' Donuts, all that stuff, stop doing it. You will be amazed in a month's time how much money you're spending on that stuff. I also want you guys to read this aloud. You must shop around for a business banking relationship. Your personal bank and your business bank should be different banks. It is really, really important that you find a business bank that has people in it that you can get to know, because you want to build a relationship with a bank where somebody can vouch for you when it comes time for you to apply for a loan or a line of credit. When you use one of the big banks, the kind that have advertisements all over TV, those people tend to shift their staff very often, and all of the relationship decisions around who gets loans and who doesn't are done by computers, and there's no human involved in it. And that's not really the kind of bank you need. 8,000 loans a day are turned down in America. And so you want to make sure that if you ever need a business loan, there's somebody in that bank that can say, you know what, Melinda's been coming in here for years. She shared her business plan with me. The last time she won a big contract, she came in and shared it with me. I think she's worth us taking a chance on. And the reason why your business bank and your personal bank should be different banks is because, unfortunately, 1 out of 5 businesses goes out of business. And you want to make sure that if that ever happens, that your personal assets cannot be seized to satisfy business debt, which is why you want to make sure that your banks are different banks. Now, let's kind of talk quickly about the basic startup costs. You've got your rent, you got marketing, budget, any business licenses, certainly business insurance. Even if you are a home-based business, you do need business insurance. You've got equipment, inventory, payroll, transportation, your cell phones, any utilities, and certainly your professional services, as in your accountant or your legal service. Now, how much do you guys think you need to start a business? Guess. Typically, it's about $25,000. If you are buying into a franchise business, triple that number. It's at least $75,000 to buy in to the franchise, and that does not include the fit out if you're doing a retail franchise. Now, where do you find business ideas? Well, first of all, you can buy an existing business, and what's great about doing that? Well, they already have customers. That's great, but I'm always leery of buying an existing business because you do want to make sure that you know why the person is selling. Sometimes people are just getting up in age and their kids don't want it and they want to sell, but you want to make sure that you understand, do they have a lawsuit pending? Do they have a customer that's about to leave them? Is the business in a lot of debt? You want to do your own homework. I wouldn't take anybody's word for it. Have your own accountant comb through their books. Make sure you know what's going on. Everybody's starting e-commerce businesses, so you can start one too. Being an internet startup is certainly something you can do. Do you know something you can sell? You could become an infopreneur or a coach like me. You can always expand a hobby into a business, and depending on where you work, large companies sometimes are always looking for, minority or woman-owned vendors. So you might want to look in the supply chain at your own company to see if there's something that your company outsources that you might be able to do, because honestly, I've seen people walk out the door on their last day with a contract in their pocket. So that's another opportunity. And certainly there are franchises. Now, food franchises do better than any other kind of franchise. And franchise businesses tend to do about 10% better in terms of survival rate than regular businesses. But a lot of times now, if you're looking into, let's say, a food franchise, you have to be at least $2 million liquid net worth, and you have to be able to buy 3 franchises, not one. They usually don't want to sell you just one. So if you want to get, McDonald's, a Cordoba Grill, something like that, you've got to have a whole bunch of money and a very high net worth. Now, some of the factors to consider as you are evaluating business ideas, there are 3 main things, achievability, relevance, and the trend in the industry. So first of all, is it achievable? Do you have the time, experience, or money, or know where to get it to pursue this business? Has the market been saturated? Is there a massively dominant competitor? Are you really going to start a business that is competitive to Microsoft? Will there be a need for this service in 3 to 5 years? What are your industry trends? You really got to look at, are you going into a business that is growing or a business that is shrinking? That is really something that you want to evaluate as you're considering a business idea. And then the marketing. How hard is it going to be to market this business? Do you understand the market? Do you know who your customer is? Do you have a specific, unique value proposition? Who's your competition? Don't believe you don't have any competition. That's a really scary, bad notion. So you want to get really clear about how the competition is and how you can position yourself against the competition. Then you've got to figure out your price positioning and how much money are you going to need to market. Are you creating a product nobody's ever heard of before? Well, that's going to require a lot more marketing than if you're doing something that people kind of already know and understand. Cookies are cookies, cupcakes are cupcakes. Everybody knows what that is. So how are you going to draw them to your cupcake shop? Now, one of the things that I want you to think about is that you really do need to develop a business plan. And what the great thing now, though, is that there's so much free business plan software on the Internet. So my favorite business plan software is enloop.com, ENLOOP.com. And, it's free. There's a paid version that's more robust, but most of you will not need that unless you're going for like high-level venture capital funding or something like that. So go ahead and take a stab at your business plan using free business plan software. If you're more of a book person, there's the Plan As You Go business plan. There's quite a few books out there. Tim Berry has some great books on business planning. So there's lots of books if you're more of a book person. I personally think that even if you start the business plan with software, you might need a human to help you finish it. So look around and see if there's a local business plan course. A lot of the small business development centers and SCORE run business plan workshops around the country. So you just need to find a business plan course. And usually they're anywhere from, $75 to $250 to take a course. But I like to do the course because it makes you accountable. And also, if you're struggling with your financials in your business plan, they will have systems in place to help you complete your financials. Now, one of the things that I want to share with you guys is that I have written extensively on how to how to start a successful business. I wrote a book called Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, which is in its second edition, and I have a workbook, Are You Ready to Become Your Own Boss? And I also have an audio course, 10 Things You Must Never Forget in Business. Now, if you all go to my website, succeedasYourOwnBoss.com, I have discounted my book bundle for you guys. Normally it's $127, but I'm making it $97 plus free shipping for you guys for the holiday. So if you go to succeedasYourOwnBoss.com, you go in the SmallBizLady store and hit book bundle, this is what it is. If you want to try it out to see if it's valuable to you guys, you can download 2 free chapters of the book right on my homepage of my website, right in the header of the website. So if you go to succeedasYourOwnBoss.com, you can go and check it out and download 2 free chapters. And if you like it, come back and get the book bundle. It's going to be on sale through Christmas. So it's $97 and it's free shipping. So I was so excited to be invited here with you guys today, so I definitely wanted to make that available. And the other thing, too, is if you buy our book bundle, we throw My Life Planning Journal in for free. And so if you're struggling with thinking about what you really want out of life, the Life Planning Journal is really going to be a help. And it's all electronic, and it's a dynamic PDF. You can type right into it. So all you have to do is go to succeedasYourOwnBoss.com and book bundle on the SmallBizLady store, and you will find it, and it's only $97 for you guys. Now, I promised you guys you would have an action plan for success going into your own business, so let me run you through that now. First of all, listen, even if you don't get the bundle, at least get my book. It's going to save you a 4-year learning curve as you're starting your business. I promise. So go and grab Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. You can get it off my site, or you can get it anywhere books are sold. It's been out for 8 years, and I updated it 2 years ago, and it's still really good. So I want you guys to take advantage of that resource. And then I want you to lay out your personal goals. I really think you need to figure out what you want and why you want it. I want you to evaluate your personal financial picture. Figure out if you're really ready to launch this business. Do you have your money in order, your credit in order? And then clarify your business concept. You really need to figure out what skills you have and what skills you need to run your specific business. And you know what? I believe that all business owners are superheroes. So every superhero I know has their own theme song, and you need one too. So you need to pick out a song that pumps you up, something that, on those days when you're feeling a little bit afraid, or you're feeling like, oh my God, why did I start this business? Hit your music, hit your theme music, have it on your phone, have it on YouTube, have it, in your car. I still have a car that has a CD player in it, so I still play CDs. But do what you got to do to pump yourself up, because there are going to be days when it's going to be really hard. And I love using music as an additional motivator, in addition to your vision board, in addition to, pictures of your kids smiling. You really want to just think through, why you're doing this. And music is a great way to reconnect to that. So we have looks like about 11 minutes left, so I'm happy to answer a couple of questions, and I will turn it back over to Russ. But if you guys want to contact me, my website is succeedasYourOwnBoss.com. My nickname is SmallBizLady, and that's what my handle is everywhere on the Internet. So you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I am SmallBizLady, and every Wednesday night on Twitter I host Small Biz Chat from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So I answer people's small business questions live every single Wednesday. I've been doing it for 8.5 years. And certainly connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to get recommendations from people who have attended my webinars, and it has changed their life. So if I did that for you today, please go on LinkedIn and give me a recommendation. I would really appreciate it. All right, Russ, that's it for me. I am turning the reins back over to you so we can answer some of these great questions.
Melinda, thank you. What a fantastic session. Some really amazing insights and advice for anybody who is looking to become their own boss. Learning a great deal here. And there are questions coming in, and we've got a few minutes to look at some of these. Let's have a little look here. Now, you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation about the idea, the concept of a kitchen cabinet of advisors. We have one of the audience have asked, how do you actually invite people to be part of the cabinet? Any advice on how to do this?
Pick up the phone and just ask them. I mean, if these are people who are already in your life, just ask them. It never hurts to ask. Sometimes people are busy, so you want to make them know that, you're going to reach out to them twice a month, and maybe, once a quarter you might have a meeting in person. And, if they can say, if they're already a fan of yours, they're probably going to say yes. Most people are very flattered to be asked for their advice.
Fantastic. Now, this is one, you mentioned this just towards the end of the presentation when you touched on the idea of music and getting a song. But a couple of people have mentioned that, you just come across as being so positive and confident. Any other tips on how to keep positive, particularly during those tough early days when you're starting a business?
Well, I think it's going to be important for you to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs who are walking in your same journey. So joining a trade association in your industry, joining, National Association of Women Business Owners or this fine organization, you just want to be around people who understand what it is, because people with jobs will suddenly not understand you when you start your business. So you want to be around like-minded people, and you want to sort of like have an accountability partner, particularly if you're working from home. It's easy for home stuff to become distracting to you. So you want to make sure that 2 or 3 times a week you get out of your house. You go to the local coffee shop or go to Panera Bread. Just get out of your house so that you can, not become stir crazy or start doing laundry or something. So those are some of the things. And I also think it's good to force yourself to go to networking events. In the early days, you need to be going to 2 or 3 a month, so that you can get out there, get your name out there, give some cards out, go build some relationships. That's another way to stay pumped up.
That's excellent advice. And this is an interesting one that we've obviously heard from you as an expert, somebody who's been out there and done it. We have a question here. Is there any one thing or any things that you wish you'd done differently when you started out on the road as an entrepreneur?
Honestly, I will tell you the biggest mistake I made early on in my business was I didn't niche early enough. I spent a lot of money chasing stuff I had no business chasing and wasted a lot of time and money. And as soon as I got specifically focused on a niche, my business took off.
Excellent. Here's one as well, and this goes on to sort of really at the beginning. This is somebody who's obviously just getting those first steps. Any advice on how to develop a business idea? Are there specific steps to try and make sure that you are making sure that your business plan is realistic, is scalable?
Well, I think that you want to, there's a great website called bplans.com, B as in boy, plans, plural.com. They have over 200 business plans you can just kind of go and look at, and that might really give you some ideas about some of the things other people are doing out there. I think that in order for you to really flesh out a business idea, first you've got to make sure you know what business you're in. Secondly, you've got to figure out if there's a brand you can create around it. And thirdly, you've got to test the market to see if there is an actual paying customer for it. Because sometimes people create great businesses and people like them, but they aren't really going to spend money until there's some pain involved. People spend money when they've really got a problem. So you got to make sure that whatever it is you're doing, that you're really solving a problem for a customer. And that's the best way for you to flesh out a real business.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Now, here's a couple of questions that are really focusing more on the equity, the money element that you talked about. So we have somebody there who's asking, firstly, should they consider their personal equity in their home as a source of income for their business? And in the same way, isn't my personal asset my equity? Slightly two slightly different questions, but really focusing on that.
I think I understand your question. So if people have home equity, I think home equity is a great way to fund a business because you can write off the interest against your taxes for home equity loans. I think that's a better place to go to get money rather than borrowing against your 401k. I don't like people borrowing against their 401k. I feel like retirement needs to be your retirement savings needs to be your last place you go for some money. So I think that having an asset, though, that you can put up for collateral to get a business loan is very valuable, and I think that's what the second person was asking. You want to have assets. You want to have a car that's paid off. You want to have a home that has equity in it. You know, these are all things that are valuable when one day you have to get a loan for your business.
Excellent, excellent. Now here's one. You must have heard this a lot, Melinda. Somebody here is not looking for a bank loan. Do they still need to put together a business plan?
Absolutely, because the business plan is not about the loan. The business plan is about how you're going to run the business. You know, a lot of people only put together business plans if they're entering a business plan competition or trying to get a loan or something like that, but that's not what business plans are for. You know, a business plan is a living, breathing document that you actually should be updating every 2 to 3 months to make sure your business is on the right track, because the first business plan you write is really your hypothesis of what you think is going to happen in your business. So once you get some actual data, you know, that's when you really kind of know what's going on. You figure out who your actual paying customer is. You figure out what your best-selling items are. That, you know, that's how you know, sort of develop, you know, your strategy around that.
Yeah, that does make sense. Now this is one that obviously somebody's really resonated with somebody, that they said they absolutely loved the slide about the key life plan decisions. Are you able just to review those decisions again briefly?
Sure. You need to figure out, you know, what kind of lifestyle you really want to live, you know, and because that's going to determine what kind of business you want to start. You need to figure out how much money you need to make to be happy, because that's a big one, especially for men entrepreneurs, because you guys kind of, not to generalize, Russ, but sometimes men, you know, get their whole self-worth from what's in their pocket. And so you really need to kind of get clear about the money, you know, what does success look like for you? And then you've got to figure out, you know, what skills you might need to upgrade before you leave corporate America, you know, particularly your technology skills. Like if you're not used to using Instagram and Facebook and stuff, you know, do you need to go take a class on that? Or if you're going to be doing, you know, project management in your new business, you know, can you get your PMP certification before you leave your job? You know, stuff like that. You know, just are there any additional skills that you're going to need? And then you've got to look at things like, you know, is day-to-day variety important to you? If it is, then you might not want to do a franchise where you got to do the same thing every day, right? You know, so you've got to figure out, you know, are you fit to work from home? You know, or do you need a work environment? You know, those are things like kind of you got to evaluate about yourself and figure out as you go into, you know, really figuring out your life plan. And that's actually why I created my life planning journal product. It is $17 if you go on my website by itself, but really it is the #1 selling thing on my website because people are really trying to get clear about what they want out of life, and that's why we developed it.
No, excellent, and once again recommend that everybody does visit your site and make sure that they make the most and benefit from those fantastic tools. I think we've probably got time for one last question, Melinda, if that's okay. And hopefully this isn't too much of a hot potato, but there does appear to be a lot of, not necessarily get-rich-quick schemes, but certainly a lot of opportunities out there. We have a number of people who have been asking, what's your advice for somebody who's starting or looking at a network marketing business? Is it true that you can start for just $100, and is that the route to becoming wealthy?
Network marketing businesses scare me a lot. I do think that there are people who make money in them, but 9 times out of 10 it's the person trying to sign you up that's making money and not you. I would much rather see you develop your own idea because network marketing businesses take up a lot of time. They force you to buy their stuff every month. You basically pay them for the privilege of selling their stuff. If you are really serious about it, I actually have a great article on my website on how to run a successful multi-level marketing business. Please go and read it because I actually interviewed a gentleman who made $5 million with a multi-level marketing business in order to write it because I'm a big skeptic of multi-level marketing businesses. So I think that you do better, developing your own idea and operationalizing that personally.
No, that's excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Melinda. I think we've really come to the end of the time. Once again, thank you so much for giving your time and for sharing your thoughts today. I'm sure I'm echoing the thoughts of absolutely everybody on the webinar when I say how truly inspiring the presentation's been and how much we've all learned. Once again, please do everybody make sure that you visit Melinda's site and make sure you benefit from those tools. Massive thank you to everybody for joining us today. Recordings of today's webinar and all the others over the course of the virtual summit this week will be made available. They'll be emailed. They'll be available here on the Bright Talk platform as well. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you register for and that you attend other sessions taking place this week. Later on today, we have sessions on the benefits of using virtual professional freelancers. We've also got one on how to build an engaged, inclusive and collaborative workplace. Also, please remember to visit napw.com for details of the many benefits that membership of NAPW brings. And so, once again, to bring everything to a close, thank you again to Melinda. Been an amazing session, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. I look forward to welcoming everybody to other virtual seminar sessions over the next few days. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Russ. It was great.
Thanks, Melinda.